Can I start now?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining today's webinar. First of all, please have my warm greeting for Indonesia. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. First, I would like to thanks to all team members who make this webinar available to us today. And what a beautiful today it is, and I'm so happy to be hosting today's webinar with all of you. I am so nervous. Okay, my name is Amma Naningrum, and you can call me Amma. Here I'm with Mr. Priyanto as our co-host. He's data analyst in WMTC. And me, I am a librarian at the Watershed Management Technology Center, or we can call it WMTC. Okay, waiting the time to come and the moderator and presenter ready to present, I want to inform you that we will mute all the audio during this webinar, and we will deliver the feedback form in the last session in the discussion. And we will send the presentation material and the relevant link to your email. So don't worry, just enjoy this webinar. And we also provide its certificate to all of the participants who attending today's webinar who fill the feedback form. And we will send it to all of you during next few days. And we will answering your question in the discussion section, and we will and you can write your question in the chat room. It's also available for you that joining us in the YouTube. And then we will select some of your question to so the speaker directly can answer it. So don't worry, just enjoy this webinar. And I will repeat again, especially for some of you just joining this webinar.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Audible?
Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar.
My name
is Amma Naningrum, and you can call me Amma. I am librarian at Watershed Management Technology Center, or WMTC. Here I'm with Mr. Priyanto as our co-host, and he is data analyst in our WMTC. This webinar, we have a topic about scientific writing and plagiarism issues in library and information science. We have two keynote speakers. The first one is Dr. Tyas Mutiara Basuki, and the second one is Dr. Rajesh Singh. I think I just want to check if you can see me and you can hear me well. Can you please press number 1 in the chat room if you can see or hear me well? Can you see?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. So, and I think the moderator and speaker is ready to present. Then now I will pass this webinar to the moderator. So just enjoy this webinar, and we hope that you will get a lot of informative and ideas about today's webinar. And then I will pass this webinar to the moderator, Mrs. Elfiyanti. The time is yours.
Terus di unmute.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Our seminar is about to begin. Please have a nice seat. Thank you very much for preparing yourself to join our seminar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. First of all, let us glorify to all the Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Because of his blessing, we are able to come here to join in this webinar. Your Excellency the Patron, Dr. Insinyur Sylvana Ratina M.Si, the Secretary of Research, Development and Innovation, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia. The Honorable the speakers and the Honorable all of the participants in this webinar. Dear ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself. My name is Elfiyanti. I am an English teacher at Junior High School, Wan Puring, Kebumen, Central Java, Indonesia. Here I am as the moderator of the webinar today. I am very pleased to see you here and welcome all of you to this webinar. This webinar is conducted by Watershed Management Technology Center, WMTC, Sukoharjo, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia. And the title of the seminar is about the scientific writing and plagiarism issues in library and information science. Dear ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce our speakers today. The first speaker is Dr. Tyas Mutiara Basuki, and the second speaker is Dr. Rajesh Singh. Dr. Tyas Mutiara Basuki, the senior researcher at the WMTC, peer reviewer, some international journals, and editor in chief journals of the Watershed Management Research. And she is the senior researcher in WMTC. She received a bachelor degree of IB University. Her master degree was obtained from Colorado State. And the second presenter is Rajesh Singh. He is the Deputy Librarian of University India as the second presenter, and he is presently working as the professional senior electronic resources and training division, the University of Delhi, India. He has served Indian School of Mines. He is regularly researching the open access electronic resources through the web and promoting their use in teaching, learning, and research. Ladies and gentlemen, before the presentation begins, I'd like to thank Dr. Insinyur Sylvana Ratina M.Si, the Secretary of the Research, Development and Innovation, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Republic Indonesia. And please give a welcome greeting to us in this webinar. Please, Dr. Insinyur Sylvana Ratina M.Si, give a welcome greeting, please.
Please, can you mute all the audio to make this webinar going smoothly?
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Elfiyanti. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. All praise is due to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Thanks to the Almighty God for allowing us to attend this event in good health. Secondly, I also would like to extend my sincere appreciation to Watershed Management Technology Center, WMTC, for hosting this important event. My sincere gratitude to invite speakers, moderator, and all of you participants. Let's look the number of the participants, 266 by Zoom maybe. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, during the last decade, research development and innovation for the have shifted from a national level into a global level of scientist networking. Research writing is our daily work. The most challenges of research come about adoption. Current data for the 2022 describe only 7.6% of result is adopted by policymakers, while 48% is implemented by stakeholders. It would be transformative how to write a strong message from scientific publications such as journal. In terms of the scientific context, based on our experiences in managing 16 scholarly journals with national recognition, one of those journals titled Indonesian Journal of Forest Research, IJFR, has been indexed by Scopus. This brings IJFR position to be a globally indexed scientific journal with high reputation, improving the previous position. Similarly, several international proceedings have published by Institute of Physics IUP publisher. We also concerned about the plagiarism issue. The plagiarism could dismiss intellectual integrity. However, we believe that plagiarism can be prevented by several strategies, such as providing plagiarism detector software and improving research writing skills. Mentioning the most scientific issues, also in response to the new normal from pandemic COVID-19, we virtually organized for the talk special entitled Series of International Journal Writing Mentoring. It aims to increase further researchers' writing skills so they could produce scientific publication in internationally reputable journals to promote the Indonesian Journal of Forestry Research as well. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Forda manages 4 centers and 50 institutes, UPT. We encourage the centers institute to complete the webinar with relevant topic. In this webinar, we attempt research writing and plagiarism issues in library and information science. We expect the participants will gain knowledge on how to improve research paper as well as to address the plagiarism issues and give all of you plenty ideas about research writing and plagiarism issues as well as you can extend your networking. We would like to convey a special thanks to Dr. Rajesh Singh, Deputy Librarian, University of Delhi, India, and Dr. Tyas Mutiara Basuki, Senior Researcher at WMTC, Sukoharjo, Indonesia, to providing their wisdom and sharing their knowledge with us today. I also would like to offer a special thanks to Mrs. Elfiyanti, Certified English Teacher of SMP Puring Kebumen, Indonesia, for her contribution to guide and accompany us in today's webinar as moderator. Finally, let me take this opportunity to appreciate all parties. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my sincere appreciation and thanks to the organizer of this important meeting. And lastly, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This webinar entitled Research Writing and Plagiarism Issues in Library and Information Science is officially open. Thank you for your kind attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bu Elfiyanti masih di mute ya.
Special thanks to Dr. Engineer Sylvana Ratina M.Si for her welcoming greeting. Before the presentation begin, let's me now regulate the relocation how the presentation will be going. And first, I'd like to give the time to Dr. Tyas Mutiara Basuki to present the material for about 30 minutes. Now, allow me to welcome to the speaker, Her Excellency Dr. Tyas Mutiara Basuki, to deliver his presentation. Her presentation is about clues to write research article for international journal publications. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Tyas Mutiara Basuki. Your time is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Chairman. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable the Secretary of Forda, Honorable the Head Office of Watershed Management Technology Center, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and Honorable Dr. Rajesh Singh. I would like to thank you for your joining in this event. I am very glad to be here sharing my experience and learning together in scientific writing. I am Tyas Mutiara Basuki, a senior researcher in Watershed Management Technology Center. This morning, I'm assigned to deliver my experience in scientific writing. The time schedule is so strict, so let me start my presentation. The title of my presentation is To Write Scientific Article for International.
Mohon izin, sesuai dengan arahan Pak Kuai, kami akan menyampaikan guidebook untuk ekspor minyak hasil.
It's okay. Sorry about that. My presentation is about the clues to write scientific article for international journal publication. Here, I divide the presentation into three sections. The first is some works before writing a scientific manuscript. The second is about writing the manuscript itself. And the last is about the submission the manuscript to the international journal. Some of you may be thinking why I put conducting a qualified research in this presentation. This is because a qualified research is expected to produce a qualified paper. So to achieve a qualified paper, we have to start since the research activities. During the research activities, we have to determine the existing global issues, reading the related literatures. Reading a lot of literature is very important, so we can evaluate the previous works, what have been done and what should be conducted next. Here we can identify the research gaps. Then we can introduce our novelty. Remember that we also have to drafting the alternative titles for scientific publication. Although the title may be changed after finishing the writing of the manuscript. Drafting the title is important to direct our research to achieve a qualified or high quality papers. Here we come up to the writing manuscript. No. Before writing the manuscript, we have to select the journal where we want to submit. Why we have to select the journal before writing? Because we have to know whether our field is the same with the journal scope or not. A high quality manuscript may be directly rejected by the editor due to improper journal selection. Journal selection is important because we have to know the style of the journal format, so we can write the manuscript according to journal style. Here, we also have to judge honestly our quality manuscript. This is very important to determine what journal we have to publish, we want to publish, whether with a high impact journal, maybe key 1, or moderate key 2, key 3, and lower impact journal. The other things that we have to pay attention also, the frequency of the publication, and also the journal system, whether the journal is open access or a subscription system. Then we have also pay attention for the guide for author. Read carefully and follow the guide for author. This is about the number of words in abstract, division of the chapters, also how to write the units. Because some journal, they ask for different writing in units. Also the tables and figures. We have to pay attention in rejection because of unsuitable manuscript with the journal writing format. Here, I just want to show the aim and the scope of the journal. You can click here in the first page of the journal. And then also the instruction or guide for author, you can read carefully from this section. For journal selection, maybe you can find from Google or journal finders. And here you can search according to countries, maybe Indonesia or all regions in the world. And also the type of article, whether this is a journal or books or others. And also for the subject, you can select whether about forestry, medicine, or earth science, and so on. Here, the writing scientific article for journal. This is a general outline in writing scientific article for journal. First is the title, and then abstract, keywords, and IMRAD, introduction, method, research, and discussion. Here, some journal, they ask students differentiate between the results and discussion, but others, they ask to put together results and discussion. And then the conclusion and acknowledgement, reference, and put the supported materials in the appendixes. This is about the title. The title should be attractive and express the main topics of the research. Reflect the most important of the research findings, but you have to concise. The abstract should be concise and specific. This is an example that I take from my paper, my first paper, about the allometric equation for estimating the above ground biomass. This is the main topic in this paper, and in the tropical lowland dipterocarp forest this is specific. Here's another example I also take from my paper about estimating tropical forest biomass more accurately by integrating Atlas Pulsar and Landsat 7 ETM data. The novelty is, in this case, is about the integrating Atlas Pulsar and Landsat 7 ETM, because previous researchers, they estimating the biomass only use one of this data, maybe Atlas Pulsar or only Landsat 7 ETM, but here we introduce a new method by integrating those type of data. And then there are some tips, tips about the determining the title. The first is list some alternative titles, and then re-evaluate this title. before and after writing the manuscript. Maybe there is some things about the word are totally different with the first one. And then discuss with the author team and choose the most suitable title. About the abstract, this is very important to introduce novelty in the abstract, and the abstract should stand alone. That means if editor or people read the abstract, they can get brief information of the whole paper, the whole content in the paper. Abstract should stand alone and concise and present one or two sentences the main problems or gaps and novelty of the research, and then the purpose of the research, method, and research findings. Here, as an example abstract, the gap is mentioned in the first paragraph of the abstract. A main limitation. This is the words that indicate the gap. A main limitation of pixel-based vegetated indices or reflectance value for estimating above-ground biomass consider the mixed spectral component. And then the author tried to introduce a new method by decomposing the mixed reflectance and each pixel basis before developing model. And then this is the method. The composition of mixed spectra in a pixel is conducted by spectral mixture analysis. And the last paragraph, the author presents the results. About the keywords, some journals do not allow to use the words in the title for keywords. This is an example. The keywords in the title is different with the words in the, the words in the title is different with keywords. Here, we use allometric equation, but we don't use for specific equation, site-specific equation. Here, we use site-specific equation. And then here, we use destructive sampling. Actually, this is the main method in developing allometric equation in this paper. This is the important one, destructive sampling. This is the method in this paper. And then lowland dipterocarps forest, this is reflected in the keyword by site-specific equation. Before I go further, I would like to give some clues for good writing. That's the first sentence in a paragraph summarizing the whole paragraphs. And then write short and simple sentences. And remember this simple things, but a lot of people, they forget when they write. Structure of a sentence will be subject, verb, and object. And one paragraph consists of only one idea. And one paragraph should consist of 4 to 6 sentences. And the important things is avoid plagiarism. About the introduction, the clue for introduction, identifying the gaps and introducing the novelty, writing the subject from general to specific subject. Structure of introduction, in general, current or global and hot issue. This is very important. I will talk later about this, about the hot issue and globally. And then state of the art related to the global issue from study literatures, and then mention recent gaps of the previous work related to global issue. And then Also write the research question and introducing novelty of your research. This is very important. And then the objective. Why we have to write paper regarding the global issue? This is from my experience. When I wrote this paper, aromatic equation. It was about 2008 or 2009. At that time, about the quantification of above ground biomass or carbon stock it was a hot issue. So I tried to write that paper and publish in Forest Ecology and Management. And here you can see from a Google Scholar citation, I got 547 citation. And for Scopus, I got around 329 citation. This is an example of introduction. This is for Librarian. The authors wrote the global issue in the first paragraph and the first sentence of the introduction. Then the gaps, the author reflects the gaps in that words, unfortunately, blah, blah, blah. And then also indicate the gaps, another gaps, one limitation of this technique, blah, blah, blah. And then for the last paragraph, the author introduced the novelty. This study presents a new technique that addresses this gap in the methodology literature by using GIS technology, blah, blah, blah. So we come up to the material and method. The clue, the method should be repeatable. Here, provide sufficient information for repetition of method by other researchers and cite the established method and describe in detail the modified and new methods and new algorithm, and also explain the analysis statistical analysis. This is an example of method. The author explained in detail the type of trees, the size of the trees, how to weight the fresh biomass, and so on. Results and discussion. The clues for the section, we have to emphasize research findings, and then tables and figures should be self-explanatory. This is the important things. And then explain clearly and logically to show contribution of the research findings for scientific knowledge. But you also have to present the text concisely and clearly, followed by table and figure. And do not repeat result description in both text and table or figure. Caption of table and figure must be self-explanatory, but concise. This is an example, a table. So the reader is not necessary to look for how many plots for the training sample and how many plots for validation of the model, because the author already present the number of plots here for validation and for training sample. This is also an example of a self-explanatory figure. So we come to discussion. The clues for discussion are present the main research finding in the first sentence of each paragraph. and then link the research findings with the research question or hypothesis or research objective. Then compare and explain whether the research findings in line or contradictive with the existing theories or state of the art that we cited. State the limitation of the current research and suggest for further experiment. This is an example of the discussion. Here, the author wrote the first sentence in the first paragraph as the research findings. This is the second paragraph. At the first sentence of the second paragraph also present the research findings. Conclusion. State the main research findings, but do not use the conclusion for abstract, because some people, they use conclusion for abstract. This is the easy way they think, but this is not good for scientific writing. So here, summarize your research and highlight the main research findings and suggest application and implication of the research findings and challenge for further research. And for the journal that doesn't give inspiration for conclusion from the discussion, you have to put or to write the conclusion at the end of discussion section. Acknowledgement. Don't forget to acknowledge the funding organization, people helping you during the research or writing the manuscript, and also the blind reviewers and the editors. And for reference, make sure citation format and reference lists according to guide for author, and use the relevant literatures and primary and recent literature about 80 to 90%, and use an application management reference. And the last part is about submission of the manuscript. First is preparation before submission. Write a manuscript submission checklist, and then write a cover letter, which is telling the manuscript to the selected journal, to the editor of the selected journal. So, some clues in writing cover letter. A track cover letter for sharing the manuscript to selected journal. Introduce the novelty. Address the chief editor name and indicate that you have familiar with the journal's editorial team. And do not make a mistake in writing the name of editor and journal. Indicate your current research gap and introduce novelty of the research, and convince that the article is important for journal readers. State that manuscript has been published elsewhere and is not under review of another journal. This is an example of the cover letter. Here, the author states that this paper is an original research paper that has been submitted to other journal or other publisher. And here, the author also mentioned the gaps, the lack of equation for estimating sequestration carbon in tetracard species in tropical rainforest. The new method, this is the novelty. The new method proposed equations are important to support the implementation of Kyoto Protocol. And the last is, I believe by submitting this paper to the journal, in this case, Forest Ecology and Management, the scientific community and the policymaker in tropical forest management and carbon study will benefit from these findings. Before submission to the journal, check publication ethics, especially checking the plagiarism that will be explained by Dr. Rajesh Singh. And make sure to submit the manuscript only for one journal at one time. and rechecking again literature citation appropriately, and also get a permission from publisher or author if you use a published material, and rechecking proper use of manuscript language, and rechecking structure of manuscript and all of the manuscript content. It's better to make a manuscript submission checklist like that, so you can identify which one is you are missing. And then submission of the manuscript, read carefully and follow instruction of the journal submission, follow them and monitor review processing, and follow and monitor publication process. If you submit a paper or manuscript into a journal, maybe you get a direct rejection. This is because the manuscript is unsuitable with aim and scope of the journal, and there is no novelty. The paper just repetition of the previous published works, and there is also indication for plagiarism, and then inappropriate method, out of date of the data or research, and unmatched manuscript format with journal format. And rejection also maybe happen after review because none stand out of novelty. There are some novelty, but not so strong novelty. And then weaknesses in design or method, and inappropriate answering the research objective, unclear writing in structure, and supervisor or weak and unfocused discussion. And how to respond to the reviewer's comment when you have to revise your manuscript. There are some notes that reviewers are volunteers helping to improve your manuscript for worthy publication. So be polite and answering review comments and question. Be polite and respect to them. Write cover letter to reviewers explaining your appreciation for the constructive comment, and make it easy to see parts of the improved manuscript by using different font color. And respond to reviewers must be referred to line and page number. And do not counter-attack reviewers if you disagree with their comments, but you should support your argument by literature. Here an example answering a comment of the reviewer. For the first paper, I got around 61 comments for the second reviewers. This is the number 31 of my the reviewer comment for my first paper. I put in the italic form and then my response in the regular font here. And I also mentioned the page, also the line here. Here we have to give a response by applied sentence like Pearson correlation and the significant level are not added because it has been mentioned that no correlation between blue density and DBH and so on. And publication process. After acceptance of the manuscript, there are article in press, proofread, and then copyright transfer, and also publishing agreement. As a closing remarks, publishing an article in a high impact journal must be started since planning and conducting research activities in which research gaps and novelty are identified, followed by writing a high quality article and submitting to the right journal and following the procedure of reviewing and publishing a journal article. There are some articles that I use for source of my presentation. That's all my presentation, and I hope that is useful for all of you. Thank you for your attention. I give the time to moderator, please, Miss Ellie. Please unmute Mr. Alfie.
Thank you very much for Dr. Tyas Mutiara Basuki for giving such informative and interesting presentation for us in this webinar today. Hopefully, it's useful for us and we can understand how to write the research article for international journal publication. And then secondly, I'd like to give the time to Dr. Rajesh to present the material. It is about 30 minutes too. His topic of his presentation is about issues and challenge of plagiarism and research writing. Now, allow me to welcome the speakers, Dr. Rajesh to the live for his presentation. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Rajesh. This time is yours.
LCD-nya.
Bukan rapat ini, rapat bidang 1.
Please unmute Mr. Rajesh. Sorry, please unmute your audio. Okay, thank you.
Good morning. Thanks to Dr. Amma for giving me this opportunity to speak to the audience, learned audience at Indonesia. I learned a lot from the presentation of first speaker, Dr. Basuki. Thank you, ma'am. It was very comprehensive lecture by you. I request all the audience to please keep yourself muted. We have a very limited time of half an hour to complete a very challenging and a burning topic, that is plagiarism. See, this presentation of mine, all the sources, images, reference citations for quotations and paraphrase materials, which is provided in this presentation, has been given in each slide or after a group of slides. So I can say there is no plagiarism. And this is the entire story about plagiarism. If you cite the sources properly and if you paraphrase the material correctly, there is no plagiarism. There is no question of plagiarism. Now, coming to the researchers, researchers are the biggest consumer and producer of information. They need to understand what exactly they are looking for, that is their information need. They need to know how to access the information precisely, not like Google. You should access only what you want or what your interest is. That should be precise, relevant, and authentic information. So for authenticity, you need to evaluate the information which you are getting from open source. You need to comprehend. Your understanding is very important for using the information. Unless you understand a paragraph, you cannot paraphrase it. So please try to understand and use the information ethically. For use ethics, this presentation is. If we talk about what the plagiarism is, it has originated from a Latin word, and the meaning of plagiarize, the Latin word is to kidnap. So in plagiarism, what we do, we steal or we kidnap ideas, language, opinion from others, and later on we take it to or we present it as it is our own. That is called plagiarism. Taking ideas, language, opinion from others and making it as your own is plagiarism. There are several ways one can plagiarize. If you are turning someone's work as your own, it is plagiarism. If you are copying words and ideas from someone else without giving credit or without citing, it is plagiarism. If you are failing to put a quotation mark in quotations, that is also plagiarism. So you will have to very specific. If you are quoting, you will have to put a quotation mark or you will have to indent. Correct information about the source of quotation or source of information which you have used is again plagiarism. If there is a gap, there is some additional punctuation marks. If there is a mistake in your writing the citation, that is also amounts to be plagiarism. Why the students or the researchers commit plagiarism? So the most important reasons which has been reviewed from the literature is lack of knowledge and skill. Students.
India, Rajesh Singh, screen.
Hello. Is there some message for me?
Just continue.
Okay. Thank you. So why plagiarism happens? So on the basis of literature, it indicates that lack of knowledge and skill is the main reason of plagiarism. Researchers are mostly unaware of the procedure for citation and paraphrasing. That is why they commit plagiarism. Authorial identity insecurities are also a very big issue, very big challenge, and it contributes to plagiarism. The cultural differences, particularly in the Western country where people are more individualist in nature, they also commit plagiarism. And there are some certain cognitive issues where researchers feel that they are not doing something unethical. So that also leads to plagiarism. There are some other reasons. These reasons are very practical reasons why students or researchers commit plagiarism. And the most important is procrastination. If you are shifting today's job for next day and next day's job for again next day, you will ultimately lead to plagiarism. Now, let me give you an example. I'm writing a paper and I have photocopied about 100 research papers on the basis of which I'm writing a research paper. What I have done, I have numbered those research papers 1 to 100. And while writing the draft, what I'm doing, instead of writing the references, I'm writing the number of the paper, keeping in mind that these papers are with me. And in the final draft, I will incorporate all the references. Meanwhile, if some mishappening happens or if some of the papers are misplaced, please remember, backtracking the references are very difficult. You cannot backtrack. You cannot find from where you have paraphrased, from where you have summarized something from your writing. For quotations you can find, but for paraphrase materials and summaries, it is very difficult to find or to backtrack. The other reason is it is very easy and quick to cut and paste, particularly from the digital content or the e-content. Some of these students, they also commit plagiarism because they are under pressure to maintain high grade points. Some researchers, they are trapped in plagiarism because they don't keep track of from where the information has come. And there are some adventurous students and researchers who believe that they are not hurting someone or they simply want to get away with it. Now, if we talk about what types of plagiarisms are there, it will make the things more clear and it will allow you to understand what plagiarism actually is. See, plagiarism could be intentional or it could be unintentional. You may plagiarize intentionally, or you may plagiarize unintentionally. It doesn't matter. You are responsible as an author. You are responsible for the plagiarism which is there in your research paper or research document. There are some other very wonderful type of plagiarism, and this has been given by the Turnitin, the software which checks the similarity. Now, please let me tell you, there are two terms, similarity and plagiarism. They are related, but they are entirely different. Whatever is similar is always not plagiarism. And whatever is plagiarized is always not similar. If you have lifted some idea in a changed language, no similarity detection software can detect it. So please remember, if the similarity level of your research paper is higher, it does not mean that you have committed plagiarism. Similarities could be for various reasons. Now, coming to the types of plagiarism, as per the Turnitin, it says clone, where you are submitting someone else's work word for word as your own, that is cloning of the research paper of others. Control C is the second type of plagiarism, which contains significant portion of text from a single source without any alteration. That is called Control C type of plagiarism. Find and replace, it is simply changing some of the important keywords from the text from a paragraph and making it as your own, is find and replace type of plagiarism. Remixing is the fourth type of plagiarism, and which is paraphrasing from multiple sources meant to fit together. So you are lifting from multiple sources and you are trying to paraphrase it and fit them together. That is called remix plagiarism. In recycled type of plagiarism, the borrower generously borrows from a writer's previous work. So that is, you can say it is self-citation or self-plagiarism. Hybrid type of plagiarism is a plagiarism where things are perfect. Most of the things are perfect, or half of the things are perfect and half of the things are not perfect. So there is both perfectness is there, as well as some lifted material without proper citation is also there. Mashup is the seventh type of plagiarism, where the researcher mixes copied material from multiple sources, right? And the most important is 404 error. We all have seen that if you click to some of the links, they are not available. So that 404 error means the reference given by the researcher is incorrect and there is no such document. Aggregator type of plagiarism refers to a document where everything is perfect. Everything is, whatever has been borrowed has been cited and properly cited. Everything is perfect, but there is no original contribution from the researcher. Everything is lifted. Everything has been borrowed and aggregated. There is no contribution from the researcher. See, in a research document, it must be clear to the reviewer, to the editor, and to the readers that what you have borrowed from others because of references and what is your own original contribution. And a research without original contribution is plagiarized. And that is why it is called aggregator. A retweet includes proper citations but relies too closely to the text original wording. So these are somewhat overlapping type of plagiarism which has been given by Turnitin. Now coming to the self-plagiarism, the debate is still on. The authors or the researchers say they are the creator of the content, they are the writer of the language, so they should be allowed to cite their previous work generously, and they are not infringing anybody's copyright because they are the writer. Well, fine, it is fine. But ultimately, once a research paper is published, the writer is not violating some other writer's copyright, but he's infringing the copyright of the publisher. So whenever you are borrowing from your previously published work, it must be cited. It must be very small portion, and it should be essential, right? Citations are not for the sake of citations. They always serve a purpose. Why plagiarism is a bad thing? It is very bad, really very bad, because it infringes academic ethics and academic norms. It is bad because it is a form of theft and type of fraud. Fraud with whom? Fraud with the researcher himself or herself. It is bad because plagiarist ultimately cheats himself. Nobody else is being cheated. It is only the researcher who is cheating himself or herself. It is bad because it reflects incompetence on the part of plagiarist researcher. It is not only an ethical issue, it is more than that. If the plagiarism is detected, what happens? In India, there is UGC, that is University Grant Commission, and they have come out with a regulation, and there are different labels of similarity, and there are different penalties on the basis of those similarities, particularly in higher educational institutions. So the similarity label is 0 if it is up to 10%. If the similarity is up to 10%, that is allowed. If the similarity is above 10 to 40%, for the students, they are required to submit the document again, revise and submit again. If the similarity label is 40 to 60%, they are given a 1 year time to revise and submit it again. And if it is more than 60%, the registration is cancelled. The student is not allowed to continue in that research. But when it comes to the faculty members, staffs, and researchers in higher educational institutions in our country, these regulations are very strict. Again, if the similarity label is up to 10%, that is level 0, and there is no penalty, that is allowed. But if the similarity label is from 10 to 40%, the submitted manuscript is not published, and the researcher is given a time period to revise and resubmit. If the similarity label is above 40 to 60%, here comes the main penalty for the faculty members, for the staff, and for the researchers. What is the penalty? 1 annual increment. The plagiarist is not allowed, or he is punished with 1 annual increment in the salary, and he is not to be allowed to supervise any undergraduate, postgraduate, masters, MPhil, PhD students, or research scholar for a period of 2 years. And if the similarity label is more than 60%, these penalties are more strict, and in that case, 2 annual increments are stopped, and the researcher or the author is not allowed to supervise UG, PG, Masters, MPhil, or PhD students for a period of 3 years. You know, the most important punishment for a plagiarist is disgrace. Disgrace to the individual, disgrace to the institution. There are many cases, not from a country, but worldwide, where plagiarists are caught, and the disgrace becomes the strongest punishment for them. Now, since I believe that most of you are researchers, or most of you are authors, we need to understand how we can avoid it, or how we can escape from the clutches of plagiarism, or how we can be honest in writing the research paper. So to avoid plagiarism, all the researchers should acknowledge other people's ideas, opinions, and theories, acknowledge and cite others' evidences, others' researches, direct quotations, paraphrased information. You won't be caught for similarity for a properly paraphrased paragraph. But the idea, since the idea has been taken by you, it must be cited. Facts and statistics from any source which you are using in your writing. Develop a topic based on previously written material, but write something new and original, as has been said by the previous speaker. And please, if you want to really follow, see, there was a citation, and this is from some Western country. There was a mistake in the citation, and that mistake continued for 25 years. And ultimately, it was corrected by a researcher when he referred to the original source. So what I am saying, that the original sources are rarely referred, right? In many cases, people go by the citation and by the idea which has been used by someone else, not by, they rarely refer to the original source. Please stick to one citation manual, any style. And what is my experience is almost all the journals, they have their own reference style or a reference citation style. It is not according to APA, it is not according to MLA, it is not according to Chicago. There are certain changes are specific to a particular journal. So please stick to the citation format or citation pattern which has been decided by the journal where you are submitting a research paper. Some few scholarly tips as a researcher, how you can be organized and how you can learn, how you can avoid plagiarism. So as a researcher, all the research scholars, they should carefully read all the guidelines for writing the thesis, dissertations or research paper, guidelines for research and result reporting, because it is only the reporting where you can commit plagiarism. Attend all the research methodology workshops, English remedial courses, training and reference management tools, because there are multiple reference management tools like Zotero, etc., which helps you to cite while you are writing. All the library programs, because library programs are really very important, very essential for the researchers, author workshops, and courses on technical writing skill. Believe me, it is in most part of the world, it is the language which is the main reason for plagiarism, right? And before submission of any research document, big or small, please go for a similarity check, similarity detection. On the same topic, if you have already written, and if you are writing the second or third paper, there could be some similarity in your language from your own paper. Be honest. Honesty is the best policy. Be honest. As a researcher, one is required to be honest. Honest to whom? Honest to himself first. Honest to his learning. See, research is a learning process. If the main reason for plagiarism is the language problem, the researchers, they feel that they're not so elegant, not so prolific in their language as some reputed authors or as their supervisor is. Fine. Nobody is expecting a researcher to be prolific like a author, elegant in language like a author or his supervisor. He is still in a learning process. Even the author or the supervisor at his age was having the same dilemma. So what is required is be honest. Research is a learning process, particularly PhD research is a learning process, and the researcher should learn how to voice his own mind, his own ideas in his own language, right? So be honest, learn it, how to voice your mind in your own language. Be honest to yourself, to your research, to your learning, to your supervisor, to your friend, to your family. And if you're honest, if you're properly citing everything, there is no question of plagiarism. Be organized. This is very important for any research, a big research or a small research. The researcher must be organized from the beginning till end of his research, and particularly in writing the research report, right? How one can be organized? See, when we borrow in three different ways. Number one, we borrow by quoting something. Wherever we want to keep the elegance of the language, we quote something. Particularly in legal judgments, we cannot change the language, because if you change the language, the meaning will be different. So we need to quote. Sometimes we want to keep the elegance of language, so we quote. Sometimes we want to defy the idea given by a previous researcher, so we quote. Sometimes we want to support our findings from the findings of previous research, we quote. So similarly, we quote, we summarize. How we summarize? We summarize a 500 pages book in 2 lines, 3 lines, or 5 lines. We paraphrase. How we paraphrase? We rewrite a paragraph in almost similar number of words in our own language. So in all these 3 cases, we need to cite. Whether you quote, whether you summarize, whether you paraphrase, you must cite everything, right? So what we can do, if you are organized and if you're keeping track of whatever you are borrowing from others, from the first draft of your research paper or research work, so whatever you are quoting, put a capital Q before and after the text, along with the reference to remind you always that this you have quoted from this source. Put a capital S before and after the text, along with the reference to remind you at all the stages of your report writing that this you have summarized from this document. Put a capital P before and after the text, along with the reference to remind you that this you have paraphrased from this source. This will help you a lot to avoid plagiarism. See, I told you earlier that citations are not ornaments for a research paper or for a research document. Citations serve a purpose. There must not be any citation without any purpose in a document, right? So all the citations, they must be used purposefully. So I already explained you when we quote, when we summarize, and when we paraphrase. But in paraphrasing, this is the most important way of borrowing ideas from others. And here, students, researchers, they used to commit plagiarism. See, what you can see is 2 paragraphs, the original and the paraphrased paragraph. What the researcher has done, he has tried to imitate the original paragraph and rewrite it. So what he has done, he has tried to replace some of the words with some synonymous words, or from active to passive or passive to active. This is not paraphrasing. Paraphrasing requires the researcher to understand the paragraph. I told you that information use. So you need to understand, not imitate. You need to understand the paragraph and then rewrite the idea, the message of the paragraph in your own language. So this is imitation, and this slide indicates how beautifully the original paragraph has been rewritten. So this is called understanding. Understanding of the idea and writing the same idea in your own language. What we need to cite? We need to cite words, opinions, statistics, facts, information from other source or from other authors, pictorial presentations. Now, there is one more concept, that is common knowledge. See, common knowledge is not always essential to be cited. You are not required to cite the common knowledge. For example, if you are writing that the sun rises in the east, this is very general example. The sun rises in the east. So this is a common knowledge, and common knowledge are not to be cited. Now, how to find out whether a particular idea or a sentence is a common knowledge or not? So what you can do, you can see some papers, related papers, and find out the same idea, the same message. And if it is not cited, it is a common knowledge, right? But in case, if you are in doubt, it is better to cite, right? So here some more examples of common knowledge, and common knowledge are not to be cited. So this is all from my side. I take the help from the first speaker and explain it, conclude it, that most of the research papers are rejected because of plagiarism. And the plagiarism, the demon of plagiarism, is not only till you are publishing. It is a lifetime certificate for you. Particularly in our country, the University Grant Commission, it has issued some guidelines and regulations that whenever somebody is going for some appointments, his papers must be checked for similarity. The thesis and dissertations are accepted only after checking the similarity and the similarity label. So it is a big issue, and it is not very difficult. In my opinion, these softwares, they really help the learners, the researchers, to learn the proper way of reporting the research, right? So thanks to all of you, to the host, the co-host, and Dr. Basuki, Water Management Institution, for organizing this webinar and giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much. Moderator, please. Now it is your turn. Moderator, please. Hello. Hello.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Rajesh, for your presentation. Okay, thank you very much for Mr. Rajesh for your presentation about the issues and challenge of plagiarism in research writing. And now we are come to this question and answer sections. This section is to answer your questions. There are so many great questions for participants in this chat room, but because of the limited time, we just only some questions of it. Okay. Okay, the first question, ladies and gentlemen, is from Listiowati. The question is, I wonder if you should share some tips on how to submit a paper. Some people say that you have to aim the journal first before drafting your paper to get yourself familiar with the scope, author's guidelines. However, some people have different opinion
I suggest to draft the paper and determine the target journal letters on. Which do you prefer and why? Please, Miss Dr. Tyas Mutiara Basuki, please answer this question, please.
Okay, thank you for Miss Listiawati from Diponegoro University. I would like to answer this question. Actually, this is depend on the preference of the people, whether they want to draft first and then select the journal, or in contradictive, first select the journal, then write the manuscript. But it is better to write the manuscript first, because you can get a direction where should you go for this manuscript, and you can follow directly the format of the journal, the guide for the authors. But if you select the journal after finishing your manuscript, then the format of the journal may be different with the format that you already write. That is the reason why I prefer to choose or to select the journal first and then draft the manuscript. That is my answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to Dr. Tyas Mutiara Basuki for your answer. And then the next is the second question. It is from Farwa from Pakistan. I have a question about plagiarism. If I would have read any article but write in my own words, and why the words that is also plagiarist? Please, Dr. Rajesh, answer this question.
See, if you are writing some research paper after reading some articles, so if you are, if you really read some research papers, your mind will be ignited, right, to write a research paper. But whatever you are borrowing, whether it is idea, whether it is language, whether it is facts, opinions, statistics, that has to be cited. That has to be cited. If you are not citing, you are plagiarizing. So even if you are writing in your own word, you will have to cite for the idea which you are borrowing. I answered.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, the third question to Dr. Tyas, please. The question from Nana Noviana from the explanation, whether the title of the article must include the novelty of research. Please, Dr. Tyas, answer this question.
Okay, thank you for your question, Ms. Nana Noviana. Yeah, I already explained that we have to put the novelty of the research briefly in the title. So someone can, like, the title should attract your manuscript. So if someone read your title, then he or she wants to read the whole paper. So that's why it is easier to share, to promote your paper by using a title. So it's a very attractive title, will introduce the novelty of your research. It's just two or three words, not completely the whole novelty in your research, but people can read directly what is the novelty of your research, and they want to read the whole article. That is my answer. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Dr. Tyas Mutiara Basuki, for your answer. I hope we are clear about these questions. Okay, continue to the next question, the question number 4. It is from Jun Karichnarsi. If there are similarities in the title, what are the main things we have to search for to find out if the theme contents of the writing are not the same as the others? Can this also be called plagiarism too?
Thank you, June, for asking this question. See, if there is, if the title is similar, it will be caught for the similarity. The first thing is, if the title is similar, it will be caught for the similarity. So what you can do, as suggested by Dr. Basuki, you need to have some alternative titles, right? Which is representative of.
Oh ya udah betul, berarti yang lain ya. Yang itu aja yang.
You need to have some alternative titles which is representative of your main research paper. So if there is a similarity in the title, it is also part of plagiarism. There is no issue.
Okay.
Yeah, answer.
Okay, thank you. I hope the questions of Jun Karichnarsi is clear. Okay, next, continue to the fifth questions. It's from Elfiyanti from Venus University. The question is, beside indexed from Scopus, what other required of good journal to submit, especially for Indonesian journal that is not indexed by Scopus? What at least that journal have to consider as qualified journal? Please, Mr. Tyas, answer this question.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Elfiyanti from Venus University. Yeah, I want to inform you that for a national journal, you can use the Sinta indexes. You can see the rank of the journal by Sinta 1 or Sinta 2. That's the high quality journal for Indonesian, for national level. That is my answer. Okay, Ibu Eli, time yours.
Okay, Sumravati. Thank you, Sumravati, for this is a good question. How to teach a student to be an honest person in writing? What should the teachers do most? See, even before these similarity detection softwares, it were the teachers who could find out that what is the original text in the document and what has been borrowed on the basis of language itself. So what is borrowed is perfect and what is original is imperfect. So teachers have a great role, and there are similarity detection softwares. Teachers should create the awareness among the students, among the researchers, that if you are caught, all your efforts will be in vain. So please be honest. So that kind of awareness in students and researchers will really help. That if they are caught for the plagiarism, that is a disgrace for them, and they may be deregistered, or they may be thrown out of the institution. So kind of awareness, the teachers can create the awareness for plagiarism. Moderator, please go for the next question. I have answered.
Okay, thank you for Mr. Handisha. I think your question had been answered by Dr. Rajesh Singh. Of course, plagiarism is an immature writing skill. For example, poor paraphrase. Could the first speaker give us tips to a paraphrase technique? As mentioned by Dr. Rajesh Singh, you have to understand the paragraph first and then write the main idea of the paragraph by using your own sentence. That's my suggestion for you. I think Dr. Rajesh Singh, can you please help to add the answer for Mr. Handisha? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You are right. You have correctly explained what the researchers are supposed to do. See, as a researcher, you can read the paragraph, you can understand the paragraph, and if you want any help, you can note down something in bullets, and then you can rewrite from those bullets. And you are not, if you are using the bullets only, you are not going to plagiarize. So that will be a perfect paragraph, a paraphrased paragraph. Is there any software that can help us to pre-check the plagiarism in our manuscript? Yes, there are a lot of softwares, but please be sure you are not using open source softwares, because open source softwares, they are not reliable. If you check the same document in different open source softwares, they will give you different results. So better to go for some commercial softwares like Turnitin, Authenticate, and even Urkund. Urkund is a good software which detects the similarity. If you have, say, a one-page document or two-page document, if you want to find out the similarity, so you can copy the one-page or two-page document and put it in Google. Google can also help you to find out the similarity of your text from the index of Google itself. There are no, I don't find any free and reliable software for checking the similarity index. I myself tested the same document in many of the open source similarity detection softwares, and I found different results. Some softwares pronounce that congratulations, this is 100% original, and some software for the same document, they said 80% of the material is copied. So it is not advisable. I'm not advising to use the open source softwares.
Okay. Thank you very much for your answer, Dr. Rajesh Singh. I hope it's clear about how to write in international journal, and we know about, and we can increase our knowledge about what is plagiarism. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, because of the limit time, we cannot answer all of your questions in this webinar. And finally, we come to the end part of the seminar. Before I close the seminar, I would like to take the conclusion from the speakers have presented today. Okay, there are 3 clues to write scientific article. Some work before writing manuscript, and submission. And then there are 6 work that we should do before writing a qualified research. And then there are 2 steps we should do when writing manuscript, liberation, and writing scientific article for journal. And then the last, there are 3 steps we should do to submit our manuscript. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the time is enough. I would like to thank so much to the speakers for informative and interesting presentation for us today in this webinar, and to all the participants for very active participation. Special thanks to the teams who can run this webinar successfully. Hopefully this webinar will be beneficial and benefit for all, and we can increase our knowledge how to write a scientific writing. And then the last is give applause for the speakers and all of you. Thank you very much for your attention. See you next time and goodbye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay, I will give back this microphone to Miss Amma. Please to close this webinar.
Okay, Amma, unmute.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Elfiyanti, for your contribution as a moderator for today's webinar. My great thanks to the speaker, Dr. Tyas, and my friend, Dr. Rajesh, for your wonderful and informative presentation. Thank you so much for the Honorable Dr. Insinyur Tyas Ratina, M.Si, for your support. My special thanks to the Excellency Mr. Slamet Edi Sumanto as Deputy Head of WMTC, the Excellency Mrs. Kuswardani, Mrs. Salamah, and Mr. Henry as the Chief Section of WMTC. My special and great thanks to our team member, they are Mr. Eko Priyanto, Mrs. Mesri Fredrian, Mr. Tommy, Mr. Dika, Mrs. Wulansari, Mrs. Baruni, Mr. Amin, and Mr. Arya for your hardworking and your contribution to make this webinar successful. And my special thanks to all of you for all the participants for attending today's webinar and for your active contribution during this webinar. We wish today become the wonderful time to all of you, and we wish you have plenty of information and ideas about scientific writing and plagiarism issues. And then you can still stay in this Zoom meeting during next 15 minutes, maybe to chat with other participant or discuss with one of the speaker. So, and please fill the feedback form because it will we will send the certificate based on the feedback form. Okay, and so thank you very much for all. Thank you, and you have a wonderful day and always health and happy there. Warm hug from Indonesia for all the librarian from India and Pakistan and so on. Goodbye. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you. Thank you.
We can unmute all. So you can chat maybe with other participants.
Terima kasih Bu Tyas.
Izin mau tanya Bu Tyas, boleh?
Ya, silakan. Mana Bu Tyas?
Ya, saya ready.
Ya. Saya Farida, Bu, dari Balitbangkes yang di Salatiga, Scientist, Bu.
Ya.
Mau tanya, tadi Ibu jelaskan kalau untuk cover letter sebaiknya kita menyapa dengan nama editor. Tetapi kita belum tentu tahu, Bu, siapa editornya itu bagaimana, Bu?
Biasanya editor itu selalu dicantumkan di covernya jurnal itu. Pasti itu ada. Nggak mungkin nggak ada. Chief editor. Ya.
Yang
editor
chief ya, Bu, ya?
Ya.
Chief.
Ya, editornya.
Misalnya namanya Ali ya berarti biar Ali gitu atau kita tambah?
Pakai gelarnya biasanya. Di situ mesti biasanya ya ada gelarnya profesor atau doktor dan sebagainya.
Oh iya, matur nuwun sangat Dokter Tyas, semoga sehat selalu, sukses.
Amin, sama-sama.
Salam Farida, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Terima kasih panitia, luar biasa.
Terima kasih juga Farida atas kehadiran. Thank you very much.
Mungkin dilanjutkan dengan sesi tanya jawab yang lain. Mungkin Bapak Ibu ada yang mau bertanya kepada Ibu
Ya,
Tyas.
silakan. You can ask the question to one of the speaker. Feel free. Unmute if you want to ask the question.
Ya sistemnya sih jadi
Aku wis ya.